Well, how's everybody doing tonight? Okay, good. We'll liven you up. We'll get you there. So welcome to the Riverside Township Radio Players. We're thrilled that you're all with us for our final presentation this season, which I believe is what, 25 years? 25 years we've been doing this. That was nice. We paid them to do that. So later tonight, you'll hear a great comedy, an episode of the Phil Harris Alice Faye Show. But first up, we have a great dramatic show for you, kind of funny. An episode from Richard Diamond, Private Detective. And it's actually a lost episode because no recording of the original broadcast exists today. And we had a lot of fun these past 2 weeks rehearsing and reinventing these characters and interpreting this original script from 1951. So if you're not familiar with it, here's a quick synopsis. The original radio series starred Dick Powell as the wisecracking former police officer turned private detective. It ran on just about every network at one point or another in some shape or form from 1949 to 1953. For $100 a day plus expenses, cash-strapped Diamond could be your private detective. Most every episode was the same. You see, within the span of 1/2 hour, Diamond was hired, beat up, seduced, beat up again, tossed around, and brought within an inch of death only to catch the culprit by the time the show concluded. And that's just about the way this one goes. So, some of you might know this, in 1957, the idea was revived for TV and ran for 4 seasons, 3 on CBS and 1 on NBC. And that iteration was produced by Dick Powell, but he didn't star in it, and it was written by Blake Edwards of Pink Panther fame. So, without further ado, we bring you the episode entitled The Barrio Case. Allow your imagination to take you back to 1951 in a world where doctors recommended cigarettes, where problems could be solved with tough words and even tougher fists. See that world now through the eyes of Richard Diamond, Private Detective.
The makers of Camel cigarettes present Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, Private Detective. The jury, America's smokers. The verdict, more people smoke Camels than any other cigarette. The smokers of America have made many different mildness tests, sniff tests, puff tests, and the sensible, thorough 30-day Camel test. After all these tests, Camel has the greatest lead in popularity in 25 years, according to the latest published figures. Yes, Camel leads all other brands by billions of cigarettes. Decide for yourself. Make your own 30-day Camel test. See if you don't agree that Camels suit you best. Here transcribed is Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell.
Diamond Detective Agency, we make your troubles bubbles.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Helen.
Just called to tell you I made reservations at Tony's.
Tony's?
Our dinner date tonight. Don't tell me you forgot.
Honey, the shape my pocket's in, I couldn't even pay Tony's tip.
Oh, Rick, you're not broke again.
That's the second time I've heard that question today.
Oh, well, who else is interested in your finances?
The furniture company. They're sending a man around to pick up my desk and chairs.
Oh, Rick,
It's not so bad. I'll sit on the floor and only take on Japanese clients.
How about tonight? Why don't you come to my place for dinner?
Now, that's what I call...
What's the matter?
That furniture company, they work fast.
Oh, the man's come to take your stuff away?
Yeah, but he must want to take it down the fire escape. He just locked the door. Honey, I'll call you back.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, are you here from the furniture company?
I locked the door.
So I see. What happens next?
If you don't mind, Mr. Diamond, I will sit down. I will sit down.
Okay, it's your chair now. You can do what you like.
It's only that I'm afraid it makes me weak in the knees.
Wait a minute. You're not from the furniture company.
I do not know this talk about what a furniture company is. My name is Estano, and I am going to die.
Look, fella, you've got the wrong shop. There's an undertaker around the corner.
Please, do not joke. I'm going to be killed. I don't want to be killed.
Well, that's understandable.
I want you to protect me. I am prepared to pay well, Mr. Diamond. My life is valuable.
Is it worth $100 a day plus expenses?
It's worth more than that. Here, $200 for protecting me, and another $100 to deliver this letter to Julio.
Julio?
Julio Ramirez, the man who is going to kill me.
You want me to take a letter to a man who's going to kill you?
Yes, it is of the utmost. Mr. Diamond, the door.
What's the matter with it?
Someone outside.
I don't hear anything, but if you insist, I'll...
No, do not open it. I must have been mistaken.
You probably heard the termites. They walk heavy around here.
Mr. Diamond, there is little time. I will explain the matter to you.
It might be helpful.
Julio was just released from prison this morning. He's after me. This letter, well, it will change his mind.
What do you want me to do?
Hide me in a safe place. Then take the letter to Julio. Quickly.
You've bought yourself a protector. Where do I find Julio?
Someplace in the Barrio, the Puerto Rican section of the city.
The Barrio's a big place.
Julio's mother, she runs a cafe on Santos Street. Her name is Maria Ramirez. Perhaps she will tell you where to find him.
Come on. I'll drop you at my apartment. You'll be all right there.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes?
Please, don't let me die.
I could tell by the look on Estano's face that he wasn't fooling. By the time I locked him in my apartment, his knees were knocking like castanets in a hurricane. I tucked his letter in my inside pocket and taxied uptown to the Barrio. It was no problem to find Maria's cafe. The jukebox was playing a rumba loud enough to shake the hips on a statue. But the girl who walked toward me from the bar was no statue. The way she looked at me proved it.
La la la. Oh, you like it, baby?
Yeah, all of it.
Just call me Inez. You look lost, baby. Dance with me.
Another time. I'm trying to find somebody.
Oh, you'll find what you want with me. Come on, dance.
Later, Angel, later. Your type of dancing needs time.
Oh. There's somebody we're trying to find. Who is it?
Maria Ramirez.
She's not your type, baby.
How do I know till I try? Anyhow, I'm really looking for her son.
Oh, Julio?
You say it so tenderly. You must know him.
I ought to. I'm his girl.
Fine. Then he should be here.
He was, but he went away.
And left you all alone? How foolish. You know where he went?
Uh-huh. But I'll get in trouble if I told you.
Well, suppose I buy you a drink. Will you tell me then?
Ooh, you're nice, baby. Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, you know what? Make it 2 drinks, and maybe a fast rumba.
Oh, you're nice, baby.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Well, the ad in the phone book says Richard Diamond.
Oh, your name is nice, too. You make me want to do something for you.
Like, tell me where Julio is? What stops you?
Julio's mama, Maria. She told me not to tell anybody where he is.
When is Maria coming back?
You are impatient, baby.
It keeps my waistline down.
Why do you want Julio?
I've got a letter for him.
An important letter, baby?
It could keep Julio from getting into more trouble.
Oh. Well, why don't you give it to me and I'll see he gets it?
You'd make a charming letter carrier, honey, but I'm afraid I'll have to deliver this myself.
Well, sue yourself, baby. You'll find Maria upstairs, around the corner, the third door on the right. Maybe she'll tell you where Julio is.
Thanks. I'll try my luck.
Come back sometime and dance with me. Be good, Mr. Diamond.
All right, baby. She gave me a smile that had more kick than a quart of Tabasco and turned back to the bar. Around the corner from the cafe was a doorway which led to the upper part of the building. I started up over the stairs. Then I reached the third floor landing. There was a woman leaning over the banister. She looked as though she hadn't smiled for at least 20 years. I guessed she was Maria Ramirez, but I wasn't so sure. So I asked. She looked me over for a full minute before she answered.
And who are you?
Richard Diamond. I'm looking for Julio.
Come in. Julio never spoke of Richard Diamond.
That's easy. He doesn't know me.
What do you want with my son, Julio?
You might say I'm a high-paid mailman.
You talk big circles, brother. My Julio has spent 5 years in jail. He's tired. I tell nobody where he is.
Would it help if I said it came from Estano?
Estano? Go back downtown, back where you come from. We have enough trouble here in the Barrio.
How would you like to see Julio go back to jail?
I told you, leave the Barrio.
This time it would be for murder.
If you do not go... Murder?
Unless I give Julio this letter.
The letter. It will keep Julio from killing?
That depends on how he likes what's in it.
All right, Diamond. Go to Julio. Here, I'll write the address.
The address Julio's mother had given me was near the Central Market. I cut across the marketplace, past the meat stalls, and was in the middle of the fruit stands when I felt a large, clammy hand on my shoulder. I looked around to see if it had a man attached to it. It did. A large, clammy man. He was stuffing a giant tamale in his mouth with his free hand. When he talked, his voice matched everything else about him.
Please, Mr. Diamond, you walk too fast. I get tired easily.
You know my name, so maybe you'd better keep talking.
You want to share some of this tamale?
No, thanks. And stop splattering the juice on my coat.
I won't keep you long, but you have something I want.
You're just flattering me.
Are you sure you wouldn't like some of this tamale? It hits the spot.
Come on. What's on your mind?
Estano gave you a letter. He should have given it to me.
Why? Are you saving stamps?
Please, Mr. Diamond. I told you I get tired easily.
Look, you're scaring customers away from the fruit stands. Now get out of my way.
Okay. As soon as you give me that letter. You're being difficult, Mr. Diamond. Give me that letter.
Okay. Here.
I'll fix you.
You said you'd get tired easily. Now you can sleep.
Hey, amigo, my heart is large for you. The man you have knocked into my apple baskets. He is Senor Gaffney.
It's a little late for introductions.
Senor Gaffney, he is a big man in the barrio, and a bad man.
I'll take your word for it.
Now he lies so still under the fruit. But watch out, amigo, because he will not be quiet for long.
I thanked the fruit vendor for her warning and gave her $10 to cover the damage I'd done. Then I took a final look at Gaffney. He was still resting comfortably, his head surrounded by a halo of purple grapes. I wanted to put an apple in his open mouth, but time was getting short, and I had work to do. The letter I was carrying was obviously too important to nestle in my coat pocket much longer. I threaded my way through a couple of alleys, dodged some rats big enough to bark, and in a few minutes, knocked on what I'd hoped was Julio's door.
Your name's Diamond?
I certainly have a following in the Barrio.
Yeah. Come on in.
I didn't get a chance to ask my last admirer, but tell me, how do you know my name?
Never mind. Just give me the letter.
You certainly learned fast. Estano didn't say you'd know about it.
Look, Diamond, I just spent 5 years in jail. I got a lot of things to take care of. Give me the letter.
I might as well tell you. It's addressed to you.
That's no good.
Hey, that's not the way you're supposed to react.
All right, Diamond, you've done your job. Now leave.
You know, I'd like to make Estano feel happy. Some bright, cheery word from you would do it.
I said you could leave.
You mean there's no answer?
Answer? Yeah, come to think of it, there is. This! Oh!
It happened so quickly, I didn't know what he used to slug me. But he slugged me, and I went out colder than an Eskimo's lunch. I must have covered the floor for about an hour. When I woke up, Julio was gone. I figured it was time to check on the health of my client. It took me another 20 minutes to get to my apartment. When I opened the door, I was relieved to see Estano sitting at the piano, a pleased expression on his face. I crossed the room, touched him on the shoulder. He fell forward onto the piano, and I understood why he was pleased. Estano could stop being afraid of dying. He was dead.
Before we continue with Richard Diamond, here are a few words about smoking enjoyment.
After all of the cigarette mildness tests, Camel is America's most popular cigarette by billions. America's smokers have made quick tests, trick tests, and the sensible 30-day Camel test to find out which cigarette suits them best. Now, after all these tests, latest published figures show Camel has the greatest lead in popularity in 25 years. Camels have the two things smokers want most: flavor and mildness. No other cigarette has Camel's rich, full flavor, the flavor of costly tobaccos properly aged and expertly blended. And no other cigarette gives you this proof of mildness, proof based on steady smoking, in a coast-to-coast test of hundreds of people who smoked only Camels for 30 days. Noted throat specialists reported not one single case of throat irritation due to smoking Camels. Make your own 30-day Camel test and see how mild, how flavorful, how enjoyable Camels are. Then you'll know why, after all the mildness tests, Camel is by far America's most popular cigarette. How mild.
And now, back to Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell.
Hello, Rick.
Yeah, nice of you to show up, Lieutenant Levinson. I only called you 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know you said it was important, but I had to. Holy bald-headed, where'd you get that stiff?
I didn't get him, I inherited him.
Oh, nice, neat job, Rick. Stabbed. Who did it?
Somebody with a knife.
Oh, very funny.
Aren't you going to ask who he is?
No, I don't have to. His name's Estano. When did you start playing the lottery?
Lottery?
The old Barrio racket. Everybody up there plays it. Strictly undercover, of course.
What's Estano got to do with it?
He was in it up to his ears. Used to be Julio Ramirez's right-hand boy.
Was Julio mixed up in the lottery?
Mixed up in it? He ran the whole works. That's why we took him out of circulation for 5 years. Funny thing about Julio. Funny thing.
Don't keep me waiting, fatty. I'm dying for a laugh.
You got a cigarette?
Some Camels on the table. What about Julio?
Oh, yeah, Julio. The way we picked him up, red-handed. He was printing lottery tickets when we walked in.
How convenient. I bet your intuition told you just when he'd be printing them.
Almost. We were tipped off by a phone call.
Who called you?
We never did know. And neither did Julio. He got violent at his trial, kept screaming he'd get the guy who squealed on him. Hey, I've got to call headquarters.
Yeah, sure thing, Walt. And make yourself at home. Slam the door when you leave.
Now come back here, Rick. I want to ask you some questions.
I'll see you later, when I've got some answers. I walked out of my place and headed back toward the Barrio. For almost any angle, Julio Ramirez looked good for Estano's murder. It was 8 o'clock in the evening when I reached Maria's cafe. I poked my nose in the door and stopped. All the lights were on. There were half-finished drinks on the bar and tables, but the place was empty. I took a few more steps inside before I heard it. I could feel the goosebumps growing on my spine, big as hailstones and twice as cold. It was a woman filled with grief and fear. I hesitated for a minute, then I walked towards the sound. When I reached the back room of the bar, I saw her. In the middle of the floor sat Maria Ramirez, her face closed tight, eyes shut, lips a thin, hard line as she rocked back and forth, and stretched out full length on the floor, his head resting in Maria's lap, was Julio. There was a big splotch of blood on his white shirt.
He is dead. My son is dead.
I'm sorry, Maria.
This morning he came home and I was happy. Now my life is black.
Maria, who killed Julio?
I don't know. He came to me, he could not talk, and then he died.
This afternoon, I gave Julio a letter.
Letter?
I'd like to know what's in it. Maybe he still has it on him.
Do not touch him.
Maria, you want to know who killed your son, don't you?
Oh, all right. You want something Julio has? Take it.
Maybe it's in his pocket. Yeah, here's what I wanted. Great, it's in Spanish. If only I knew someone who could... Maria.
5 years I've waited. Now he's dead.
Maria, tell me what's in this letter. It's important.
Give it to me.
What does it say?
I was wrong. Julio was wrong.
Wrong about what?
Estano. We thought he told the police that Julio was head of the lottery.
Well, didn't he?
The stranger in the barrio. We trusted him.
Who was it? Tell me, Maria.
Raymond Gaffney. He told the police about my son. Oh, Julio. Julio.
She took Julio's head in her hands. She whispered and crooned to him the way she must have done when he was 2 years old. I turned and tiptoed from the room. It wouldn't have done any good to ask her any more questions. Besides, the jigsaw puzzle that started when a frightened little man walked into my office was beginning to shape into a full picture. It wasn't a pretty one. I still wondered about a couple of things, but I needn't have. Because as soon as I walked out of the house and passed an alley, the answer came. It assumed the interesting form of a girl and a gun. The girl took my arm. The gun found 2 of my ribs and stayed there.
Hello, baby.
Hello. Must you use that gun, baby?
Inez wants you to stay close to her. We're going to take a taxi ride.
Wait a minute. I've got to tell you something.
Tell me in the taxi. It's more romantic.
Julio is dead.
Yes, I know.
You don't seem to be grieving.
I stopped grieving for Julio a long time ago.
You know, I have an idea about you.
Lots of men do, baby.
This idea is different. It says you traded in Julio 5 years ago for a chunk of fat named Gaffney.
You're making me mad, baby. Come on, we have a visit to make.
Inez eased me out of the alley and along the street to a cab stand. I knew she was taking me to Gaffney, and I decided not to argue. She gave the cab driver an address. We rolled down the West Side Highway and finally pulled up in front of a dingy 2-story affair on 9th Avenue. Inez herded me up some stairs and unlocked a door. I could hear someone operating a hand press in the other room. But what really interested me were the neat piles of lottery tickets, thousands of them.
Raymond, baby.
The press in the other room stopped and Gaffney waddled through the door, a gun in his fat hand.
Well, my dear, I see you brought a visitor.
Yeah, I came to buy a lottery ticket.
I'm afraid I couldn't sell you a ticket.
Why not? My money's good, just like the money you take from all the poor suckers in the Barrio.
Of course, but I sold you a ticket. You might win the lottery, and you'd never collect your prize. Because you see, Mr. Diamond, you're not going to live very long.
Is fortune telling one of your side rackets?
You have a cute sense of humor. Too bad we can't keep you around to entertain us. You know too much.
And I know a little more every minute. You wanted to hold this sweet little racket all to yourself, didn't you?
You interest me, Mr. Diamond.
That's why you killed both Estano and Julio.
Exactly, and that's why I'll have to kill you.
Aren't you worried about all the blood? It'll get all over your nice new lottery tickets.
Nah, I wouldn't think of killing you here.
I see. You have your own private morgue?
You'll find out. Aha!
What's the matter? Your girdle slip?
The bright look in your blue eyes. You have something in mind. Yes, stupid Inez. She forgot to take away your gun.
Yeah, too bad you didn't forget.
Come along, Mr. Diamond. We're going for a walk. Here we are, Mr. Diamond. Don't the river look nice tonight?
Isn't it a little cold for swimming?
You won't mind. I've never been cold water to bother a corpse. Just a minute, stop here. Yeah, this empty dock will do very well. Straight ahead.
Aren't you going through a lot of trouble? You could have done this much easier back at your headquarters.
True, but you have too many friends along with police. I prefer to keep your death, shall we say, anonymous.
Yeah, very kind of you.
All right, Mr. Diamond. I think we've gone far enough.
I know we have, but there's nothing I can do about it.
True. Now stand where you are. Right at the edge of the dock.
If you say so. But don't you want me to fall in the water after you shoot me?
I do.
Then we'd better move. There's a barge under here.
Barge? Let me see. No, Mr. Diamond, you stay where you are. There's no barge. What are you trying?
I had intended to try and take Gaffney while he was standing on the edge of the dock, but somebody beat me to it. The 2 shots must have caught him in his broad midsection. He fell off the dock into the river before I could grab him. The faint lights of the Jersey shore caught a circle of ripples where Gaffney had hit the water. Then the ripples were gone, and there was nothing. Suddenly, it hit me. I realized who had shot Gaffney, and I was wasting time. It was about 7 blocks back to the lottery headquarters. I made it in a little less than 3 minutes. But when I raced up the stairs to the 2nd floor, I heard the shots. I flung open the door, Then I slowed down. There was no reason to hurry now. Inez lay on the floor, dead. And standing over her, still holding the gun, was the person who had killed Inez and Gaffney.
The other one, he's dead too?
Yes, Maria. Gaffney's dead.
We trusted them, Julio and I. We trusted them.
You shouldn't have killed them.
They killed Julio, my son.
The law would have punished them.
I only know the law of the Barrio. Those who betray are to be killed.
I'll have to call the police.
Yes. Here is the gun. I have no more need of it.
Maria, I wish...
I can see it in your eyes. You understand, don't you, Mr. Diamond?
Yeah, I understand.
You're still feeling blue, aren't you?
Yes, Helen, dear.
About Maria?
Yeah, I must be getting soft, but I can't forget her face. The look in her eyes when she was talking about Julio.
Come here, Rick. Mwah! There, does that help?
I knew I could count on you.
I like being counted on.
Honey?
Uh-huh.
I've got an idea. Let's go out somewhere. Someplace we can dance. I'd like to listen to some loud music. Very loud.
Well, I could still get that table at Tony's.
Do you mind?
Of course not. You know, Rick, there's something about this case that you just finished that I can't figure out.
Can't you?
That girl, Inez, she was a very fancy female, wasn't she?
Yeah, very fancy.
Well, what made her give up a good-looking boy like Julio for that awful Mr. Gaffney?
Baby, this proves something I've always thought about you.
What?
You just don't understand women.
Listen next week for another exciting adventure of Richard Diamond, starring Dick Powell, who can now be seen in RKO's Cry Danger. Tonight's transcribed adventure of Richard Diamond was written by Charles E. Israel, with music and sound effects by Marty McNulty. Our director is Jacob Palka. And featured in the cast of voices tonight were Kathy Juarez as the Camel Pitch Woman, Corey Mizak as the Fruit Vendor, Lieutenant Walt Livingston was played by Jay Summerfield. Julio, the dead jailbird, was played by our very own jailbird, John Byon. Estano, the piano-playing stiff, was played by Marty McNulty. Helen, Diamond's well-to-do girlfriend, was Donna Amesmeyer. And Inez, the gun-toting exotic dancer, was played by Allison Byon. Raymond Gaffney, the tamale-eating tough guy, was Andre Dixon. Maria, Julio's beleaguered mother, was brought to life tonight by Ellie Babka. And last but not least, Richard Diamond was performed tonight by Brad Zuro. And I'm your announcer, Mark Fazio, saying good night from Camel Cigarettes. And stay tuned for the Phil Harris and Alice Faye show on the same station. This program came to you tonight from Riverside. This is the RTRP, the Riverside Township Radio Players Network.
All right, give them another round of applause. Wasn't that great?